I'm drinking out of my glass skull cup today. It's just iced coffee. Hello everyone, my name is Lindsay Lunari and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be the second video in a series that I began last year where I talk about all of the horror movies I watched in October. Every year I watch a bunch of horror movies I've never seen before during the spookiest and best month of the year, and I'm very excited to be able to talk about them with you. I think it will be fun to talk about these movies in the order that I watched them in, so without further ado, number 1, Malignant, 2021, directed by James Wan. You may know James Wan as the co-creator and director of Saw and the director of The Conjuring. Malignant is a supernatural horror film about a woman named Madison who is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders. Her torment worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. I first saw the trailer for Malignant at a screening of Candyman back in September, and I immediately became very excited to see it. This film is actually quite difficult to talk about without spoiling anything crucial, but I will try my best. I will say it's utterly mind-boggling and full of twists and turns. There is no dull moment, in my opinion. It's shocking, scary, brutal, and full of impressive cinematography. At times, the film actually changes tone, but this didn't bother me like it has some people. The final act is actually famous among those who have seen it because it's packed with a lot of action, while the earlier acts are more mysterious, gloomy, and in line with more familiar horror. I like that this movie tricks you though. I thought I had predicted it about halfway through, but I was pleasantly surprised. It goes completely ballistic at the end, and if you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. And I really love that about this film. Number 2, Hellfest, 2018, directed by Gregory Plotkin. Hellfest is a slasher film about a masked killer who turns a horror-themed amusement park into his own personal playground, terrorizing a group of friends while the rest of the patrons believe that it is all part of the show. Hellfest is definitely one of my new favorites. It's set on Halloween night, so it will be a great film to watch on Halloween, and I wish I had waited to watch it. I actually watched it at the beginning of October. Hellfest is a very solid slasher film in my opinion. Slashers are my favorite subgenre of horror, as well as creature features, and so I was pleasantly surprised with this one. It has good suspense, and the score was actually composed by Bear McCreary, who is the composer of The Walking Dead. I would personally love to attend Hellfest if it were real. It's pretty accurate as far as scare attractions go. I've been to many myself, and it's a very fun environment, so I was very excited to see an entire film set in one. I believe they shot this at Six Flags in Atlanta, Georgia, and at one point in the film, Bex Taylor Klaus, you may recognize them from MTV Scream, their character is super delighted to be at Hellfest, and while looking around, they go, "These are my people." And I love that line because it's super funny and relatable. Number 3, Bad Hair, 2020, written and directed by Justin Simien. Bad Hair is a satirical comedy horror set in 1989 about an ambitious young woman who gets a weave in order to succeed in the image-obsessed world of music television. However, Her flourishing career may come at a great cost when she realizes that her new hair may have a mind of its own. First of all, Bad Hair is full of great performances. It stars Elle Lorraine, who plays Anna. She has such a screen presence and she really carries this film. We experience everything from her point of view. Um, this film is without a doubt a one of a kind. I've never seen anything like it, and I think that speaks volumes. During the scene where Anna is getting her weave sewn in, I found myself like clenching my teeth because she's in such an incredible amount of pain, but you can't really take your eyes away because it's so shocking and compelling. I also love the folklore in this film. Anna reads a tale called The Moss Haired Girl about a woman who took black moss from a tree and made herself a wig. It was the hair from witches long ago. And I won't say more than that, but I really love how chilling the tale is. This film also visits the very real issue of Black women who are made to feel like they have to change their appearances in order to be more marketable and to meet the standards and cultural expectations of Western society. Anna is actually not the only one in her workplace that is driven to get a weave to hide her natural hair. This is a definite must see film, in my opinion. It's very smart, clever, and very creepy. Long black hair on any character, in my opinion, in a horror movie is very reminiscent to me of like The Ring or The Grudge. There's something very unsettling about it, and but in a good way. Number 4, Housebound, 2014, written and directed by Gerard Johnstone. Housebound is a New Zealand horror comedy about a young woman who is forced to return to her childhood home after being placed under house arrest. She then begins to suspect that something evil may be lurking. This film was so hilarious. I went into it completely blind, so I had no idea what to expect. It it's not ridiculous, goofy comedy, but more along the lines of dry humor that is incorporated into many of the scenes, and you can't help but laugh out loud. The actress who plays the mother in this film, her name is Rima Tewiata. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce it, but she has impeccable comedic timing. The main character, Kylie, played by Morgana O'Reilly, is also very funny, as well as the security worker, Amos, played by Glenn Paul Waru. He just so happens to be a paranormal expert, and so he decides to help the two ladies sort of solve the mystery of their house. I experienced a wide range of emotions while watching this film, and it was a total blast. A few scenes even made me jump, which never happens. And there's also a twist, which I will not give away, but it's definitely worth the watch. You will see things that you won't believe you're seeing, like a talking teddy bear, a cheese grater being used as a weapon, a lot of other random things. Number 5, The Amusement Park, produced in 1973 and officially released in 2019. The Amusement Park is a George A. Romero film starring Lincoln Mazel. After its initial release at the American Film Festival in New York in 1975, it did not receive any further release until 2019. It has been remastered and restored in 4K. The Amusement Park is a 50-minute film about an elderly gentleman who goes for what he assumes will be a normal day at the amusement park, but he then finds himself in the middle of a hellish nightmare. It's not quite a horror movie. Um, you would think it is from the description alone, and considering it's a George A. Romero film, but it's more of a psychological thriller or a drama. It's certainly horrific, but mostly because of what is being highlighted on screen, the cruelty of elder abuse. There's no malevolent spirits or killers or creatures here, just humans being unkind. The intention of this film, which is stated at the beginning, is to show what it's like for elderly people. We were meant to experience a day in this old man's life and realize a true sympathy. It's actually very sad to watch. Older guests at this amusement park are disrespected and ignored, while younger guests are treated with human decency. This is also a very artistic film. We see the Grim Reaper on a carousel, which is symbolic. We see a psychic gazing into a young couple's future. She sees them struggling in their old age. The park is also not like other amusement parks, which is very interesting. There are booths for information on retirement homes. There are traffic cops at the bumper cars ready to write citations for the elderly. There are freak shows that where the main attractions are the elderly people. So they're booed and heckled, and it's very disturbing. Overall, there's not a lot of dialogue in this film, just a lot of background noise of the crowds and rides. So it was very interesting, and it was also interesting to learn that most of the supporting roles were volunteers, who many of whom were elderly people living in institutions. Lincoln Mazel gives such an amazing performance here, and at the end, we're encouraged to look into existing volunteer services for the elderly. This is such an important film, and I would recommend watching it um, to gain some perspective, especially. Ageism is real, and we should be respecting and cherishing our elders. Number 6, Saint Maud, 2019, written and directed by Rose Glass. Saint Maud is an A24 British horror film about Maud, a newly devout hospice nurse who becomes obsessed with saving her dying patient's soul. Saint Maud is Rose Glass's debut film, and it's quite incredible. It's very chilling and disturbing. This is another one where we are experiencing the story from the perspective of a female lead, which I love. However, in this film, the woman is deeply disturbed, so it's very interesting to be in that place, to see everything through her lens. Maud believes that God speaks to her, or she's so desperate to believe. She feels his presence and hears his voice, and we slowly become more and more unnerved as the movie progresses. There's something off about Maud and her state of mind, and you just feel uneasy. The actress who plays Maud is exceptional. Her name is Morfydd Clark, if that's how you pronounce it. The visuals here are great. The diegetic sound felt very ASMR at times, which I love, and there are some awesome body horror clips. Another thing I noticed were these deep, low drone sounds throughout the film, which are a little bit hard to describe, but I've definitely heard them in other horror films before. It kind of feels like darkness in the form of sound, which I love. Overall, you have to think very deeply about this film in order to understand what it is telling you and showing you. In many movies, the answers we seek are clearly revealed to us, but this is more of an art piece. I love the ending very much, but just beware, it's very uh, heavy and quite shocking. In an interview with Vulture, Rose Glass says, "We all live in the same world, but we're all confined to our bodies and all experience reality subjectively." I would definitely recommend reading that entire interview after watching Saint Maud. Number 7, The Blob, 1988, directed by Chuck Russell. The Blob is a science fiction horror film about a deadly entity that crashes down to Earth near a small town and begins consuming everyone in its path. Panic ensues as shady government scientists try to contain the horrific creature. And let me tell you, the creature in this film is horrific. If you're in the mood for body horror, this film is for you. There is so much goo and gore. They really did a good job on the special effects, and when the organism kills, it's much more severe than I had anticipated. The Blob is a remake of the 1958 film of the same name, and I've never seen it, but I definitely plan on watching it eventually. I'm not sure why I never got around to watching that one or this one because I'm a big fan of 80s movies. I love a good 80s throwback. You have leather jackets here, mullets, a horror movie screening, two teenagers from different social groups finding common ground. It's basically like the cheerleader and the rebel, like in the Breakfast Club, um, coming together, who end up fighting the Blob. And it's overly a very fun movie, or overall a very fun movie. It's very action packed and not to be taken very seriously. It takes place in October, which is awesome, and it stars Shawnee Smith and Kevin Dillon. You may know her from the Saw series and him from the television show Entourage. Number 8, His House, 2020, written and directed by Remy Weeks. His House is a horror thriller that tells the story of a refugee couple from South Sudan struggling to adjust to their new life in an English town that has an evil lurking beneath the surface. Aside from a horror film, this is definitely a psychological drama. The couple, played by Wunmi Musaku and Soap Dirisu, who give amazing performances, are grieving a terrible loss and are dealing with survivor's guilt and severe PTSD. You can really see it in the characters' eyes, the trauma they have endured and have not yet faced. So I thought this storyline was pretty outstanding, and there's a lot to unpack with this film. It's a very intelligent horror movie with a powerful message. It's been praised by critics and even received a handful of accolades. So definitely check it out and let me know what you think. Number 9, The Wailing, 2016, directed by Na Hong Jin. This is another very well received film and probably one of the most memorable on my list this year. The Wailing is a South Korean horror film which centers on a policeman who investigates a series of mysterious killings and illnesses in a remote village in order to save his daughter. The Wailing definitely had an impact on me. It's very brutal and heartbreaking. It's bloody. It's comical at times, which was a pleasant surprise. It opens on a gloomy morning, which is great. It sets the tone for the film, and the town that the film is set in is actually a real place called Gokseong, which actually means whale in English. The director spent parts of his childhood there, and he came up with the story for The Wailing after multiple people close to him passed away. This film, in my opinion, will have you invested right away because there is a very intense scene at the beginning which actually has wailing people, and it feels all too real. I love the scenery in this film. There are a lot of shots of mountains and panoramic landscapes. There's a lot of eating scenes, which is awesome, and the performances by the lead actors are very impressive. This is another intelligent film that is worth reading about afterwards, so you're actually clear on everything. The ending is a little bit confusing, but I found an article on filmcolossus.com, which is very helpful and it's a very insightful read. So I definitely suggest looking that up after watching The Wailing. I had this movie on my watch list for the longest time, and I think I never got around to watching it just because it's pretty long. It's about 2.5 hours. So I kept putting it off, but trust me, it's definitely worth the watch and it doesn't feel that long. The pacing is very good, and you just become so invested in this film that you want to find out what's going to happen. So it's definitely worth your time. Number 10, Halloween Kills 2021, directed by David Gordon Green. Halloween Kills, as you may know, is a sequel to the 2008 Halloween movie that was released. That one, if you remember, was created as a direct sequel to the original 1978 Halloween film, disregarding all the original sequels. Halloween Kills begins precisely where the previous film ended and sees Strode and her family continuing to fend off Myers, this time with the help of the Haddonfield community. I went to see this on Halloween Day. I saw a matinee showing. I thought it was good, but it wasn't amazing in my opinion, but very entertaining and worth the watch. One thing to keep in mind is that I am a huge Halloween fanatic. I'm a huge fan of the original franchise, and so I admit that I may be a little more critical than other people because I grew up watching the Halloween films. I think I saw the first one when I was like 5 or 6 years old, so I really treasure the old ones. This movie at times didn't feel a lot like a Halloween movie in my heart. It was missing the atmosphere of autumn. It was very chaotic at times, in my opinion. There's this long hospital sequence where mobs of desperate townsfolk are scrambling around and pushing and shoving each other. And this film actually explains to us over and over again the events of that night in 1978 and the evil that is Michael Myers, as if we're not aware. There are a lot of one dimensional characters here who make dumb decisions, like going after Michael Myers with baseball bats or small knives, like not realizing his power and not understanding what we all know. But I guess when you think about it, when I think about it, they wouldn't know because they only know him from what he did that one night in 1978, not from all the original sequels where he kept evading death. Halloween Kills is a very dark installment and it's very brutal. I think the death scenes were the most violent out of all the Halloween films. I do appreciate how much this film pays homage to the original. I support Laurie Strode's return to the franchise, as well as Nick Castle, who played the original Michael Myers. He returns for some scenes in Halloween Kills. And there was also a reunion of other characters from the original, such as Tommy Doyle, Lonnie, and Lindsay Wallace, who was actually played by the original actress, Kyle Richards. One thing that strikes me is that I don't understand why all these people remained in Haddonfield. To be honest, I mean, even Lori stayed there, which I would have left and never looked back. But who knows? I mean, everybody probably has their reasons. Have you seen Halloween Kills yet? If so, let me know in the comments. I definitely like to know your thoughts. I don't think I've quite gathered all of my thoughts about it yet, but I definitely want to watch it again, especially before the next one comes out, which I believe will be in October 2022. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoy making these videos, and I want to incorporate more like film review videos on my channel, if that's okay. Please let me know in the comments what you have been watching. What are your favorite horror movies you've seen this year? Maybe let me know if you've watched any of the films on my list and what your favorites are. I have to say probably Hellfest, The Wailing were my personal favorites. I actually rated all of these films on my Letterboxd account, which I will link below. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.